every show, we're like, what are we gonna spit? And I'm like, that poem. That poem actually is called Lucero. Does anyone know who that brother was?
Marcelo Lucero.
Marcelo Lucero. No. Cool. He's someone you probably read about a few years back. He was unfortunately murdered by a gang of racist white teenagers in the suburbs out in Long Island. Yeah, that's what's not a surprise to anyone, but that's the reality. It's important to check in that that's still happening all the time. So this is so beautiful to have such a nice intimate group. I'm just happy to get to know a little bit. So a couple of just like quick check-in. What are some words people are feeling? How you feeling this evening? Throw it out. We got good. What else we feeling?
Grateful,
Anybody?
baby. Grateful.
Grateful. Thank you for that word.
Chilling.
Chilling. For sure. What about that?
Tired.
It's all about keeping it real.
Happy.
Happy. Thank you for that. Cool. Beautiful. Right? Check-in is important, just to know how we're doing. Feel free, I don't know if those like stools are super stools and they're more comfortable than the couches, but you know what I mean? Feel free also just to come close and we'll cipher it up. I'm gonna go ahead and do this next piece, which some of y'all have heard. You might have actually heard one of my brothers does this poem, whose name is Frankie, and he couldn't make it tonight. But it's a poem I wrote a long time ago, and he honored me by learning it, which is something that I'm really grateful for. But it helps introduce myself, and sometimes I just do it to for myself. It's one of those. I'll spit this piece to keep me radical, because otherwise I might forget. Because when you chilling in New York for a little while, you get in that hanging out, just doing you, first world mindset, and so I spit. I spit to kick my ass back to the broken down shack in the slums outside of Quito where Marcelo died from doing crack. I spit to slap me with the fact that every time I pay a tax, I help this government murder innocent people in Iraq, and there is nothing liberal or conservative about that, so take me back. Back to West African villages where poverty pillages my boys like Al Mustafa, who I know are still living in utter desperation. Because these are the people and places that should shape my political view. Not Fox or CNN, the New York Post, or Daily News, nah. I use reality to keep my politics in order, and if I feel a little moderate, I just spit this trip down to the border. Over 1,500 of our people have made their graves in the last 3 years. I keep it radical for each of them and all our families' tears. And if it appears it to be radical, it's too intense for me to fit in, trust me, that is all the more reason for me to stand here spitting the peace that keeps me radical. Because it's the same peace being demanded by the prisoners of Guantanamo. It's the peace Native Americans deserve when they fought alongside Geronimo. This is the piece of skin torn from a mother's limb when Lebanon got bombed, and the piece of porcelain that reminds her children of her now that she is gone. This is the piece of Muslim prayer calls and the piece of Christian psalms. It's the piece that keeps me sewn into the fabric of every sweatshop. It is the last piece of bread before the famine stole the whole crop. This is the little piece of genius that my boys keep hidden under hoods, and this piece is to remind me it is not easy to be good, and I should be proactive like families hustling in the hood, and always keep it moving, because doing nothing is not peace. Forget slamming for a score. This is my only way to breathe, because art is more than my release when my commander-in-chief is a standard thief and I'm standing neck deep in the blood of my peeps, and I can't keep my head above water much longer. I spit to the dead and I said in their honor, forgive me and give me the peace to be stronger. And this is what they left. They left this breath in my lungs to be sung. When people are being murdered and poets are silenced by the state, I spit this piece to conquer hate. In streets and then in courtrooms, I would get it in my cell until they throw me in the hole, and covered by their darkness, I will hold this piece of light that I have seen in children's eyes that reminds me why we fight. And from right here, I will spit the depth of it. My tears cry beside the desolate, because there ain't no amount of hours And no governmental powers that will sicken me with mediocrity or turn me to a coward, because radical means rebuilding all the peace that they've devoured. And just in case y'all didn't hear me, let me spit it louder. I want peace from the Bronx to Baghdad to Sierra Leone. Peace for every man, woman, and child without a home. I want peace in Bolivia, Mexico, and Ecuador. Peace built on policies that stop keeping people poor. I want peace on my block between us and the police. I want peace between America and the entire Middle East. I want peace so bad, but I need to want it more. I need to want it more than these weapons companies want war. And if you look, you will see that in my eyes. They are bloodshot red because real men are not afraid to cry. And I am not afraid to say, I believe peace is possible. But that shit is radical, my people. And radical means to the root. And if we have the courage to admit it, the root of peace is me and you. Remember, life should not be easy for any. While life is this hard for this many. So if I ever lose my radical point of view, please, family, just spit this piece to wake me up. And I promise I'll come back to you.